welcome everyone to Wave 1 2024 Highlights webinar. For those of you who are new to these webinars, every time Microsoft do a release, which is obviously April and October, I go through the list and then I go through and I actually just check and see which topics would be interest to most of our customers. So today, let's have a look at see what I've actually chosen. So from the finance side, we're going to look at this new general ledger account revaluation, which just means you're able to now revalue general ledger transactions. One of the big changes has been projects. It's previously called jobs within Business Central. And again, this is how they've changed all the terminology, how we can now use Assemble to order items on the project. You can now have default locations and bins for a project or a particular part of a project. Timesheets, they've made quite a few changes on timesheets just to make it a bit more intuitive and a lot easier. And then it comes to invoicing. It's around about how you can invoice multiple customers out of one project, or you can invoice a customer for multiple projects. On the service side, it's more just focusing on what they've done with document attachments, not only on the service items, but also in the documents, how they've now allowed you to have attachments, which was missing in previous versions. And then we're going to look at a couple of things from a user experience. It's about dragging and dropping attachments, multiple files. And then we'll look at assigning a salesperson to a customer ship to address. And finally, we're going to look at those error details to see how you can capture them and pass that information on to someone else, which will just make this support a lot easier. And then finally, Copilot. Well, Copilot seems to be the flavor of the month. And because there's going to be quite a few features that are going to be there for Copilot, we've decided to dedicate another full webinar just to this topic alone. And we're just in the planning stages at the moment, so we will let you know when we're going to have that one. The only thing I wanted to point out is if some of you are going to move straight away onto Wave 1 2024, there are a couple of things you need to be aware of when you turn it on, and I will show you that when we come to the end of the webinar today. Please note that throughout this presentation, I am using the Cronus AU demo company, and everything I am showing you today is standard Business Central out of the box. There have been no customizations in this particular company that I'm using. It's literally standard. And a reminder, if you ever want to see what has been released, go to the question mark at the top there. Then you can click on Help and Support. That then opens up the relevant page here, and you can click on see what capabilities are coming soon. From there, remember to click on, there it is, Release Wave 1 2024. We can click on that, and then we can click on SMB, Business Central, what's new and planned. And this will give you all the features that are coming out, and when it is available for you, you will see a date under general availability. So even though they said that all these features are available, they are only available with Wave 1 2024 release. So again, if there's something that you are looking for, it's not quite released, just come back and check this page and you can see when it is intended to be released. So let's get started. Let me just get rid of that down there, move that into there. So the first thing we're going to look at is on the finance side. And this is about being able to revalue your general ledger transactions. So in the past, you could revalue the transactions, but only if they were foreign currency transactions that involved a customer, a vendor, or a bank account. Now you can just revalue transactions that are just general ledger journal entries. And again, you can decide which accounts need to be included in the revaluations, what currencies to be involved, and more importantly, where do you want that adjustment to go to? Do you want it to go to the realized gains and loss or unrealized gains and loss accounts? And don't forget, when you do these adjustments, to use the adjustment rate on the currency card. So the changes that have been made now is on a general ledger account card, and I've just picked up any old account, so most probably not the right one, but in this case I have used rental income, but there will be a revaluation tab on the card now. And this is where if you want this account to have, if you had any general ledger transactions involving a foreign currency and you want it to be included in the revaluation, just click this button here. So this will go green or will be turned on. Source currency revaluation will be turned on. Again, if you, depending where you want your adjustment to go to, whether you want it to go to the unrealized or realized, again, just turn this button on if you want it to go to unrealized. Now, you've also got the ability when you do this is, do you want to do multiple currencies to a particular account, or do you want to restrict just certain currencies to a particular account? And this is where this particular field will come into use. And again, if you're saying, I just want a single account, single currency, then you can drop down in this field and just choose whether you want it to be Euro, US dollars, New Zealand dollars, whatever it may be. So once you've set up all your accounts, to actually run the revaluation, you just go to Chart of Accounts, click on Home, click on GL Currency Revaluation option. That pops up a screen in here. Now, I did create, when I do mine, I do have a separate journal batch for revaluation so that I'm not interfering in anyone else's batch. I put a date in there. Again, you've got all your filters, and when you're ready, you can click OK. That will then go through, pick up all the accounts that are allowed to be revalued, look at all the various currencies that you're revaluing, go and get the rates, and then it will come up with the list of transactions that will be revalued and the amounts. Again, when you're going to, if you are going to use this, I do recommend you do try it in your sandbox first, just to make sure that it's going to give you the results that you actually want. So that's been able to now revalue general ledger journals with foreign currency transactions. It's come up a few times recently, so it's great to see that they've actually done that now. The next one is projects. So they have spent a lot of effort on the projects module, changing it, and the big thing is they've now changed it from jobs to projects. So when you go searching, and if you actually do type in the word job, it will now just show projects. And from a microchannel point of view, we're going to be calling projects within Business Central, the standard version, standard projects. And the reason for that is we do have an advanced projects module, but the standard, the old jobs module is now, we will now refer to it as standard projects. Like I said, you can still use the term jobs, you can go searching for it, but it won't actually show jobs in the menu anymore, it'll actually show projects. And again, things like job tasks, job journals, job planning, all that has been changed to use the word projects instead now. One of the things they have allowed on a project is this assemble to order item. Basically, you can now bring in those items, and what it will do is, if you let it, it can create an assembly order for you in the background. You would still process the assembly order in the same way as you would normally do any assembly order. You can't actually post it within the project, but again, just go to the assembly orders and then you can post it and it will be there for you. And you've also got the ability to explode your assembly items out in your planning if we need to do that. So let's go and have a look and see what that's all about. So you can see here, I've just bookmarked this. And just to give you an example, just to show you, if you do type in the word jobs, it's not going to come and say can't find anything. It will just refer to projects. So in the background, it's going to interpret jobs as projects. So here I've got my projects in here. I've set up one for today, and it's this one here. So let's go in and have a look at how it handles assembly orders. One of the other changes they have made in here, so I've got my line 10 here, and before you would most probably under manage, new and delete line, they now have what we call a project task card. So behind the scenes for every single line, you do have a task card, so you can get a little bit more granular in your information and what you want to set in there. So they do show the planning lines, they do show the posting, so you can come in and change things. And we're going to come back and look at this whole invoicing and shipping side later on. But more importantly, if I come into here, I can go into project planning lines. And what you'll notice is I have in here an item. I've just put it as budget, not billing anything. My assemble to order item there, which was scroll across. Project planning line, assemble to order, and actually show all the order lines. And from this page here, I can get into the actual order. There it is, and if need be, I can open up the document if I wanted to. Now, if you had several assembly orders on a particular project, you can as well get to them from there, come into project, go to assembly orders, and it will give you the list of all the project, all the assembly orders in relation to the project, not just into that particular line. So let's go back and recap that. So again, you can see here, assemble to order on a project. We literally just put in the quantity, put in your quantity to assemble, and it creates those projects in the background. Now the other one was actually assembling, what was actually exploding it. So on my next line here, I can come in. You can still use the 3 dots down the side to go into project planning lines. And this is where I have used that same item again. I did put in my assemble to order item, and then all I did was say actions, functions, explode. So again, if I come back into here, use that same item again, just to show you, I put that in. I just want a quantity of 1 in this case, and all I would need to do is come into actions. Sorry, let's go back. Just getting a bit carried away today. So from that line, all I need to do is functions and explode. And what it does is it keeps the header line there and explodes everything out. So you don't have to create an assembly order. You can just use the function there, explode the bomb, and it will then list them out. And then you can continue on the project with the way you need to do it. So that's just using the assemble to order, either putting it in there and creating a assembly order or exploding it out. The next thing that they've done is they've put in a default location for the project or phase, but it's actually the location and the bin code. So on the main project card, you have got the ability down here to change your location and your bin. So if I go back to my project now, and you'll notice I've got one here. I've said my location is silver. There's my default bin code. Again, you can default one or the other. I presume if you are going to default bins, you will actually need to put in a location. I have done this, but it has not changed my existing projects. I will have to do that manually. But the minute I do type something in here, and if I just go into 50, you will see straight away it has populated my location code and my bin code as default. I don't have to do it. So it's just, I suppose, taking it and making it a lot easier for people to enter things without having to manually do it. By setting up your defaults, then every single line will actually follow through. Timesheets. So they made quite a few changes in timesheets. They've added in a couple more queues, basically new timesheets, current timesheets. So you can see those, and I'll give you an example of that shortly. Entry has been made a lot more simpler, and again, if there's functionality there that's not valid, instead of throwing in an error, they've actually just grayed that option out so that you don't have to use it. We can also copy timesheets from previous periods. We can also copy it from the planning lines if you wanted to. And we can also start to analyze our timesheets as well. So if I come back into here and go back onto the main dashboard, I'm just using the Business Manager dashboard today, but you could use your Project Manager's dashboard. And what we've got here is these are the 2 new queues. So current timesheet looks at the work date. Now, for those of you who are new to Business Central, this is your work date under the settings, which is generally today's date. So if I click on that particular option, it's showing me the timesheet for me for this week. As you can see, it's the week of the 22nd, and that's coming through. So that's that particular one. And the other new queue they've got here is new timesheets. So these are timesheets that have not actually been used at all. As you can see, they're not open, they're not been submitted or approved. They are blank timesheets. So very quickly, if somebody has set your timesheets up in advance, you can come in here, click on them, and actually start working with those ones. Now let's go back and have a look at my current timesheet, and let's see the differences that they've made here. So from the overall timesheet, really all I can do is submit. They've grayed out the reopen. So before this would have been highlighted, but they're going, you know what, you haven't submitted it, so therefore you can't reopen it, so let's gray that out. They have also done that down here on the line option as well. They've grayed that out too. They've also introduced a new field into the timesheet called work type code. So for those of you who do want to analyze the type of work being done, whether it's standard time, overtime, time and a half, or double, you can get your users now to say, well, I've done 6 hours of standard time and 2 hours of overtime. We can also use this work type field not only just for that type of time, but the type of work that they're doing. So a person may, if you're not too worried about standard time and overtime, you may have a person who's doing 2 different types of roles. So you can say the work type, well, I'm doing standard consulting as opposed to project management work, and you can use the work type for that as well. They've also got the cause of absence code coming in. And again, if somebody was entering leave against a leave project, you can, or an absence project, you can then define why that person's absence, day off, holiday, sick. You put your own options in there. And the other thing here is, if you have started to enter a line and you have not put in all the information, the line here, the status field, will actually stay as red. Down the side here, what is nice, at the top here, I have got on my timesheet, I have got my timesheet header comments, but I can also put line comments down on the individual lines too. So you can see here, I put one in, what I was doing, put the furniture together, client is happy. But on the side in the fact box, so remember, you just need to turn on the fact box by clicking on the information icon, and you will get some further information here, but you can also click on here and open up your comments too if you needed to. So that's just showing you the comments per line. So those are what they have done just to make it a little bit more easier to enter timesheets. Don't forget, there is information up here. I just decided to turn that off. But more importantly, I can actually copy lines from a previous timesheet, and I can also take lines from a previous timesheet, complete with comments. So if you're doing the same task day in and day out, and it may be something that you've been running for 2 or 3 weeks, instead of having to enter your time with comments again and again and again, you can use that option too. And you can also create lines from project planning. So if you have been allocated against one of those tasks, you can just say create the lines from project planning. It will drag them in and put them into here. And lastly, the other thing that they have done is, if you go to timesheet lines, again, I've just bookmarked that up there to make it really easy for me. We've got the analyze button. Now, previously it used to have the word analyze, but they're running out of a bit of space here because they're also going to have Copilot, and you'll get the Copilot icon here if you turn that on. So this will be the new analyze button. And in here, I have said, right, in this particular case, just show me all my timesheets by my resource. In this case, I've only just got Catherine in this demo system. And again, all it was, I just took the resource number, dragged it into there, and I can now start analyze my timesheets by my different resources. I've also done the same here for project. So again, you'll notice instead of using resource, I've gone and found the project field, dragged that down into there. And I can now see, and I can also do that as well by saying, okay, well, let's take that and drag the resource too. And you'll now notice in here, I have got this project, and now it's broken out by Catherine too. And the same again on each particular project. So this is allowing you to start, if you wanted to, use analysis. And if I didn't want to use my resource, I can just get rid of that. And again, just open up just by different jobs. So start to use, so the analyze button is quite useful. And again, everything that you've got in here, if you wanted to, you can still export that out to Excel and use and go and graph it and do whatever else you may need to do to continue to do your analysis work. So that's some of the information that they have done with your timesheets. They've also done some improvements on improving timesheets, but we have limited time, so I can't go through everything today. But go and have a look and see. So again, just as a recap, there's your timesheets, your current timesheet based on your work date. There's new timesheets, those are ones that have not been entered. Like I said, they've grayed out options that are well, I'm saying not active at this particular point in time. We've got the status button, we've got the work type, and again, they've shown you some details here where you can drill straight in. And don't forget, you can copy your timesheets and also use your analysis tool as well to go and further dig into information that you may need. Now, the next one here is creating projects that you can invoice to multiple customers. And this is where you've got a project and you may be delivering it to one customer, but you need to bill someone else. So again, you can start to mix and match within your project. Now, if you've just got, I do a project and I just invoice one person, that's fine. But if you are in the situation where you've got projects, but you are billing several people, and you may have this as a regular thing, you can go and change the default setting in the project setup option. But let's go and have a look and see what that actually allows you to do. So if I come back into my projects, go back into that same project that I set up. Once that's opened up, what you'll notice is in here is I have actually, and I'll just show more here just so that you can see. This is a project I have set up for my customer Adatum. So he is in turn my sell to customer. Now, I can at any point in time come in and have certain parts of this project, either the whole project or individual components, start to invoice different customers. And if I just close it up, on the invoice and shipping tab, this is the setting that would obviously be set up under project setup. And this is, what is my task billing method? Is it only going to one customer? And that's why I said, if you really only one project, one customer, fine, you can just leave it. But if you are having a project where you can bill certain multiple customers within that project, you have the option to come down here and choose multiple customers. And that can be a default setting, as I said. Here, this is where you can say, right, default customer, it would actually be a datum. But I can come in and say, well, here's another customer, and I chose trade research. Now, trade research, if we have a look, is going to be customer 2000. So this is the customer that I'm going to bill. I'm still shipping to my sell to address, but you could use an alternative one as well. And then what that allows me to do is down here, this is my customer. So this is my datum, my main customer that I am delivering to. But this is the customer where I will be billing to. Now I can, on each individual line, go and chop and change and say, right, well, I may keep that. Do you want to change the bill to customer? Yes, and it's updating the related lines behind the scenes. So you can have a mix and match in here if you wanted to. And then when it comes to actually getting to the invoicing stage, you can then come in and create the invoice. So in this particular stage, I can come in and say, create the invoice. So in this particular stage, it will create the invoice on a datum. But for this particular line, it will actually bill trade research, which I have chosen as my other customer. So that's quite a useful option for those of you who need that functionality. So yeah, just remember, you need to just go into the invoice and settings, set that up there, and then you can chop and change as you need to see fit. Now the other one on projects, and this is the last one for projects, is we can send an invoice to a customer for multiple projects. So if I've got 10 projects on the go, I can either send them 10 invoices or I can send them just 1. And what that will do is if I come back to here and I go and choose, let's go to sales invoices. Once the project is obviously completed and ready to go, you can create a sales invoice. I've already got one on the go here. So again, notice that I am billing a Datum corporation in this particular instance. So all I need to do is come down to the line option, go to functions, and choose get project planning lines. So it's going to go and get everything where I have said my individual bill to customer that is ready for billing, go and call up those lines. So remember, it's just billable or budget and billable lines that will show. If it was just a budget line, it won't appear. And that's the reason why, even though in my previous project, project 10, I did change that line 10 to go to bill to a datum, because I had it as a budget line, it's not showing. If I had made it a billable or budget and billable, it would have appeared in here. But just using that get project planning lines, it's now gone back into projects, gone and find everything that is ready to be billed or can be billed, and brought that back across all these different projects. All that remains for me to do is come in and say select more and say, right, which ones do I want to actually show? Let me go back and do that. And I'm saying, right, I'll actually bill those particular lines, and I may actually bill those couple of lines. Click OK, and those will then bring them onto the actual invoice for me if I had the right GST posting set up. But you'll get the idea that all of these will come through and land up on the invoice, and then you can go ahead and invoice the customer. So they'll get one invoice for multiple projects. So just recapping on that particular point, just go into the lines function, bring it in, and like I said, it brings in all those particular lines. So that's projects. So there's been quite a lot of work done in that particular area, which has been great to see, because I haven't done a lot in that area for a while now. Next, service management. So with service management, what the big change here is about documents and attaching documents into the service documents or document lines or service items. So you can see here service-related documents can now be attached to service items, contracts, and invoices. If you actually go to the help page, or where the new functionality is, it does give you a list of every single document where you can now attach service-related documents. So again, these could be maintenance manuals, warranty certificates, or inspection reports. You can also choose the attachment action to go to document attachment. So on the actual document itself, if you're on a line, you can go and choose the attachment action, and that then will attach the document, attach that document to the actual document itself. You can also, if you've got a service order, and I'll show you this shortly, you can use the attach as PDF action, which you've been able to do like with your purchase orders and sales orders and things along those lines. It's just always been missing from service side. And they've also got this new flow to service transaction toggled in the attachment documents. So we've always had flow to sales, flow to purchase. They've now got the flow to service. So this is the one where we can see we've got a service item card. Before, it always had the attachments there, but it was only notes. There was no actual attachments. So again, you can just click on, in this case now for most of you, it'll be 0 because you won't have anything attached. Go in and actually choose your files and attach them to the service item card. Again, as I mentioned, and while doing that, sorry, while you're doing this at this level, if I had at the line level, you can do an attachment and it will also bring it into here too. I mentioned that from a service order, you can attach as a PDF, so you can create a PDF and put it through as an attachment. Some people like to do that. If it's useful to you, go ahead and use that. And the next one is this new box here. So we've always had the flow to purchase and flow to sales. and this is for attached documents now. So those of you who are running with the service module, you can now have these attachments go through to the various service transactions. So that's the big change that they've made on service management. It's just allowing to have attachments there now. The last area we did want to look at was user experience. So this is where, and I know this came up in a prior webinar, was could we drag and drop multiple attachments into BC? The answer is yes, you can. Well, a couple of weeks ago, I could do that. But there's been an update. It's not yet released. It's been delayed. And when I looked at the general availability, I believe it's now been pushed out to June. So I was able to do it a couple of weeks ago when I was testing and preparing everything. When I looked yesterday, I couldn't do it. And I went back and had a look at the general release. So it is coming, and June is the date. So obviously there's been a few issues in their QA in this area, and it's not quite released yet. And one of the useful areas it could be is in your bank reconciliations, where you can just drag and drop multiple files. As you can see, use transaction data from, you can drag and drop. Just a quick word here, bank reconciliations using Copilot is certainly available, and I have done a few demonstrations doing that. But yeah, please look out for it. It is coming. It's obviously been delayed. But it was already on our agenda, so I decided to leave it there and just mention it. So watch this space. The next one is assign a salesperson to a customer ship to address. And this now just gives you that ability. So if you've got a customer, but he's got different branches scattered around the country, but if you are monitoring sales from a commission point of view, instead of taking the salesperson from the main record and then having to possibly change the salesperson based on the location of the shipping address, they now have a default salesperson on that shipping address, and then you can use that. What am I talking about? So let's go back and have a look at my sales order. Well, in fact, let me come back into here. So what I've done is I've got a datum as a customer card, and you can see I've got JO as my main salesperson for a datum. But under customer, I can click on ship to address list, and I can have different addresses. And as you can see for Cheltenham, I've actually got a different salesperson code. So instead of JO, I've now got BC. So let's go in and have a look and see what this will do. So let me go to my sales orders. I'll come in and quickly use the queue to get there. There they are. And I'll pick up the first one here, which is for a datum corporation. So again, in here, I have, as you'll see on the header, the default salesperson code is JO. And there it is when it pops up. Come on. There it is, JO. So that's my default salesperson code. But if I now decide that instead of actually shipping it to 21 Station Road, SA in Australia, I'm actually going to ship it off to somewhere overseas. If I come down to my shipping and billing and I choose an alternative shipping address and say which one, in this case, I use the one with salesperson code BC. What you'll now notice is that that has gone through. And just click on the dates. Yes, I've changed the sales, but it's not, I must update the sales lines manually. Keep coming through. That was the agent code. So again, I've got Cheltenham here. But what will happen is if you go back to the top now, what you'll notice is the JO has now been replaced by BC. So therefore, if you are now running reports by salesperson or analyzing things for commissions, just by changing the address, it will now pick up the salesperson in relation to that particular sales address. So there it is, salesperson code has now changed just by setting up a default salesperson. The next one, or the last part of user experience, is showing error details and how to get help for another user. So if you get one of those messages and you can't quite decipher and you need some help, you can take that error message and send it out to Teams or to email. And you can also copy those error details as well and obviously forward them on to someone else. And this is really useful if you want to send things through to the help desk if you are getting stuck. So let's have a look here. So this is where, you know, the big red X, they have also improved all their error messaging to make it a little bit more nicer and more friendlier. And you can see it's copy the error details, which is what you want to do, then share that to Teams or email. So let me go in and I'm going to do a very simple error, but it's just to get the concept through to you. So I've got this sales order, which I've actually put through as a release sales order. And what I'm going to do, let me just close this up here. So I'll just click on show less. And I'll most probably just get rid of my fact box. Let's do this, close these up. In this case, what you will notice here is I have got this as released. There we are. And I'm just going to go and change the quantity. Now, for those of you who've been using Business Central for a long time, you will notice that to make any changes, you've got to go and reopen. But just as an example, in this case, I've just gone in, I've left it as released, put in 10, and you'll now say status must equal to open in the sales order, header, document type order. Yeah, again, I might go, I'm really not sure what's going on. What is nice is you've got the little icon here. I can click on that and say, copy my error details. It's copied it to a clipboard. I now can share that to Teams. So by clicking on sharing to Teams, it will open up the screen for you. It will then say, well, who do you want to send this to? What's the information? So in this case, I can send it to Steve Contoso. It says, hello, I'm experiencing a problem in Business Central. Remember, I copied to my clipboard. I can just go Control V in there. So there is the error, and it's giving me all the information that that person may need. And then all that leaves for me to do is please describe this error. And I can say, cannot change quantity. And I can then share that out, and it will go off to Steve. So it says your link has been shared. We can close that down, open up Teams here, and you will see here's the message. I'm experiencing a problem, cannot change quantity. So it's now sent that message to Steve in Teams. So that's pretty useful. So you can send that either through to Microchannel if you've got a link through to Microchannel on Teams, or you can send it to your first line of support, Steve Contoso, within the organization. You can also take that as well and say, come on, come back down to here, share the details via email. So again, you can do that. It will create an email for you. Again, just all you need to do is actually put in the details, Control V, and then send that off to Microchannel Help. So that is something new. At least they've got all the information. Just give a bit of a story as to what's gone on. Yeah, send that off. So again, you can use first line help within your own organization, or use it by email to send through to Microchannel for assistance. So that's the sharing the details. And the last thing I just wanted to show with you is Copilot. As I mentioned, it is now available within 2024. It's got a nice new logo there. So you see that logo, that just means Copilot. If you are going to upgrade to Wave 1 2024 shortly, and you do want to start using some of the Copilot features, you can set it up using assisted setup. But when you do that, it's going to bring up a screen, and you need to allow data movement. So if this option comes up, please turn it on. And the reason for that is because at the moment, the whole Copilot is being run out of the American environment, not the Australian environment. If you don't use this, it won't allow your data to go back to the American environment. I'm not saying that your data is going there, but that's where the Copilot is actually sitting at the moment until they actually release it in the Australian environment. If you don't turn that button on, it's not going to give you the functionality that you need. Okay, It will come to Australia. It's just there's a bit of a time delay before they actually move it out to here. I think they're waiting for it to go through, see if there are any further issues before they do. But if you do want to start using it, please turn that on. And again, there will be more news information about this in our newsletters, and we will be dedicating a session on this to Copilot coming shortly.